You begin here, at the quiet edge of something vast, and you do not rush. You never rush here. The ground beneath you feels steady and patient, like it has been waiting without checking the time. The air rests gently against your skin, cool but kind, and you notice how easily your shoulders soften when you stop holding them up. You breathe in. You breathe out. The breath happens on its own, which feels reassuring, like a small reminder that not everything requires supervision. In front of you, a river moves. Not fast. Not slow. Just enough to be alive. The water slides over smooth stones, creating a sound that does not ask for attention, yet somehow receives it anyway. A low murmur. A distant hum. It feels familiar, like a sound you have always known but rarely listened to. You realize you are standing at the river's edge of time itself, though nothing announces this fact. There are no signs. No instructions. No clocks nervously tapping their wrists. You notice the light first. Soft evening light, stretched thin, as if the day is exhaling. It settles on the water in long, quiet bands, moving with the current, never trying to stay in one place. The light seems unbothered by direction. You like that about it. You stand still, and the river does not mind. It does not ask you to step in. It does not ask you to leave. It simply continues, carrying moments the way water carries leaves, without effort or commentary. You feel something loosen inside you as you watch. Perhaps it is the idea that time might be less demanding than you were taught. You were told time ticks. You were told it marches. You were told it runs out. Yet here, at the river's edge, none of that seems necessary. The river does not tick. It does not hurry. It does not shout last warnings. It flows, which feels like a much kinder arrangement. You breathe again, slower this time. In. Out. The breath matches the water almost accidentally, like two strangers realizing they share a rhythm. Your body understands something before your thoughts do, and that is usually a good sign. Your body understands that time is something you are already inside, not something chasing you from behind with a clipboard. You look down at your hands. They are warm. They exist entirely in this moment. They are not older or younger than they need to be. They are simply here, drifting along with everything else. You gently flex your fingers, just to feel the sensation, and the river continues its quiet work, unimpressed but supportive. You think about motion. Not in a mathematical way. Nothing sharp. Just the idea of movement, the way walking through air feels different than sitting, the way riding in a car changes how the world slides past you. You sense, softly, that time notices motion the way water notices a boat. It adjusts around it. It curves. It responds. This is the science, arriving gently, without jargon or raised voices. Time is not fixed. It is responsive. It stretches when things move quickly and relaxes when they do not. You do not need equations to feel this. You have felt it on long afternoons and short nights, on journeys that seemed to shrink hours and waits that expanded minutes. The river has been teaching you quietly for a long time. You smile a little at this realization. It is a small smile. The kind meant for yourself. You consider how much pressure clocks put on everyone, standing there so confidently with their rigid faces, pretending they are in charge. You imagine one of them trying to survive in the river, getting immediately soggy and offended. The thought is oddly comforting. The river does not measure itself. It does not count how far it has gone. It does not worry about arriving. It simply moves, moment by moment, carrying time the way a lullaby carries sound. You realize you have been moving with it all along, even on days that felt still. Stillness, you sense, is often just shared motion. You shift your weight slightly, and the stones beneath your feet respond. Everything here responds. Nothing is frozen. Even you, standing quietly, are traveling through time at exactly the pace required for this moment. No faster. No slower. Exactly this. A breeze drifts past, barely there, brushing your cheek as if to check whether you were paying attention. You are. You always were. The sound of the river grows just a little fuller, not louder, just more present, like a thought settling in. There is nothing you need to solve. No puzzle hiding under the water. No test at the end of the riverbank. You are allowed to observe without understanding everything at once. Time, it turns out, is very patient with learners. You take another slow breath. In. Out. Your heartbeat feels steady, unremarkable, wonderfully ordinary. You notice how the river does not pull at you, yet somehow you feel carried anyway. Perhaps carrying does not always require movement. Perhaps attention is enough. The light begins to shift, almost imperceptibly, and the river seems to invite you closer without words. Not forward exactly. Just nearer. Nearer to the idea that motion matters, that speed changes the flow, that time behaves differently when you drift faster than usual. You do not step in yet. You simply feel the invitation resting there, open and unhurried. You stand at the edge, breathing, listening, noticing, while the river continues, calm and unconcerned. And as your breath deepens, the current begins to feel just a little stronger, as if the river is preparing to carry you gently into the next thought. You remain near the river, though it no longer feels like an edge. It feels like standing beside something that has always been there, quietly patient. Your breathing stays slow and unforced. In. Out. The air feels warmer now, touched by lamplight, the kind that softens corners and forgives unfinished thoughts. Somewhere nearby, you imagine a clock. Not loud. Just present. Its ticking is gentle at first, like a small animal clearing its throat. Tick. Tick. The sound floats toward you, then thins, then blends with the murmur of water moving over stone. Eventually, it is hard to tell which sound comes from where, and that feels important. You think about how often you trust clocks. You let them tell you when to begin, when to stop, when to feel late or early or slightly guilty for no clear reason. They stand so confidently on walls and wrists, insisting that time arrives in identical pieces. Yet here, beside the river, that certainty feels a little theatrical. Polite, but unnecessary. You look at the water again. It never pauses to check itself. It never announces the moment. It flows, and somehow that flow contains every moment without dividing them sharply. You feel your shoulders drop another small distance, as if your body has decided it no longer needs to argue. Stillness, you realize, is a feeling, not a fact. When you sit quietly, time seems calm. When you wait, time seems stretched. When you move with others, time feels shared and steady. The river does not change its nature during these moments. Only your relationship to it shifts. This is where the science drifts in, careful and unintrusive. Time feels constant because you usually move gently and predictably. You travel with the same spin, the same daily rhythm, the same shared motion as everyone around you. The river carries you together, so the surface looks smooth. Still water, you might say, even though it is never still at all. You breathe in slowly. The breath feels synchronized with something larger, as if the room itself inhales with you. You breathe out. The sense of urgency you forgot you were holding loosens its grip. You were not late here. You were never behind. You imagine calendars now. Rows and boxes and carefully named days. They try very hard to hold time still, pinning it like pressed flowers. Useful, yes. Comforting, sometimes. But flowers do not grow that way, and neither does time. The river smiles at this idea, if rivers can smile, which you decide they probably can, quietly. You notice how motion hides inside familiarity. The room does not feel like it is moving, yet the planet carries it gently. Your body does not feel like it is traveling, yet it moves faithfully along its path. You are always in motion together, which makes the movement feel like rest. Shared drifting creates the illusion of standing still. The clock ticks again, softer now. It sounds almost embarrassed. You thank it mentally for trying its best. Clocks mean well. They just prefer straight lines in a world shaped like curves. Your attention returns to the river, and you notice how the surface reflects the lamplight in long, broken threads. The reflections wobble slightly, stretching and narrowing, never holding the same shape twice. Time does this too, you think. It looks smooth until you really watch it. Then you see the gentle distortions, the way moments lengthen or shrink depending on how you pass through them. You rest your weight comfortably, feeling supported by the ground, by the air, by the quiet agreement of the moment. Your heartbeat continues its steady work, unconcerned with schedules. You appreciate this about it. It has never once asked what time it is. Another slow breath arrives. In. Out. The river's sound deepens, not louder, just fuller, like a thought that has decided to stay a while. You sense that time is not something stacked neatly behind you, but something flowing beneath you, responsive and alive. This understanding does not demand effort. It arrives the way sleep does, when allowed. Time feels steady because you float with it. When motion changes, when speed shifts, the river responds, adjusting its flow around you. Nothing breaks. Nothing rushes. You feel a gentle reassurance settle in your chest. There is no correct pace you must maintain. The river does not compare currents. It does not rank travelers. It carries each one according to how they move within it. The clock sound fades completely now, dissolving into water and air and breath. You find you do not miss it. You have something softer to listen to. The subtle movement beneath stillness. The quiet truth that rest and motion can exist together. You stand with this idea, letting it warm you like lamplight on closed eyes. Time is not rigid. It only appears so when you drift together. And as you take one more calm inhale, you feel the current beneath the surface tug just slightly stronger, preparing to carry you onward, gently, into the next stretch of the river. You feel it first as a quiet change, not a sudden shift. The river beneath you does not surge or splash. It simply gathers itself, becoming smoother, more deliberate, as if it has decided to pay closer attention. You are still breathing slowly. In. Out. But the air brushes past your skin with a little more presence now, like a breeze that knows your name. You are moving faster, though nothing feels rushed. That is the surprising part. Speed, here, does not arrive with noise or urgency. It arrives with elegance. The water glides more cleanly around you, the surface stretching into longer reflections, and the banks seem to drift a little farther apart, as if making room. You notice the sensation in your body before you name it. Your weight feels lighter, not gone, just redistributed. Your heartbeat remains steady, loyal to its calm rhythm, yet each beat seems to linger a fraction longer in your awareness. You smile softly at this. Even your heart, it seems, is curious. The river accepts your movement without complaint. It does not resist. It does not cling. It adjusts. This is what rivers do best. They are excellent listeners. As you glide, the sound of the water changes almost imperceptibly. Still gentle. Still low. But smoother, like silk sliding over stone instead of pebbles clicking together. The world around you does not blur. Instead, it feels as though time itself is stretching its limbs, easing into a longer stride. This is where the science settles beside you, unannounced and polite. When you move faster through space, you move differently through time. The river of time responds to motion the way water responds to a boat, reshaping its flow around the journey. Time does not snap or tear. It elongates, patiently. You do not need formulas to understand this. You feel it in moments that slow unexpectedly, in experiences that seem to hold more than they should. Here, drifting faster, the seconds do not stack up tightly. They spread out, breathing, making room for awareness. You notice the riverbanks now. They no longer feel fixed. They stretch gently, like scenery seen through a wide window. Nothing disappears. Nothing rushes past too quickly to recognize. Instead, everything gains a soft elasticity, as if the landscape itself has learned how to relax. You breathe in. The breath feels cooler, cleaner, touched by motion. You breathe out. The exhale takes its time, unhurried, as though it has discovered there is no deadline to meet. Your shoulders remain loose. Your jaw unclenches without instruction. A quiet thought floats up, friendly and amused. You remember being told that speed is dangerous, that faster always means harsher. The river gently disagrees. Here, speed simply means different. It means time choosing to flow another way. You imagine aging now, but only briefly, only gently. Not as a countdown or a loss. More like rings in water spreading wider instead of tighter. Moving faster through the river does not steal moments from you. It stretches them, allowing experience to unfold with less pressure. You feel reassured by this. Nothing is breaking. Nothing is being cheated. The river is simply adapting, the way it always has, the way it always will. It has carried countless journeys, each with its own pace, each with its own rhythm, and it has never once been confused. The air hums faintly around you, a distant vibration, like the memory of sound rather than sound itself. You let it pass through you. Your awareness feels wide now, spacious enough to hold movement and calm at the same time. This surprises you less than you might expect. You glance down at the water and notice how reflections lengthen, stretching into gentle streaks of light. They shimmer, not because they are unstable, but because they are responding. Time does this too. It responds to motion by loosening its grip, allowing moments to breathe. You laugh quietly, barely more than a breath. It occurs to you that time, when treated kindly, returns the favor. You imagine clocks trying to keep up with this stretch, their hands wobbling slightly, doing their best. You wish them well. Your body continues its calm participation. Muscles stay soft. Your spine feels supported, aligned with the direction of flow. You are not pushing forward. You are allowing yourself to be carried, faster now, but still safely held within the river's wide patience. The science does not demand attention. It simply sits with you. As speed increases, time slows for the traveler. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just enough to be felt as ease, as space, as the gentle lengthening of experience. You realize that this slowing is not something you have to notice actively. It happens whether you watch it or not. The river takes care of the details. Your only task is to remain present, which you are doing effortlessly. Another breath arrives. In. Out. The rhythm stays smooth, matching the glide. The water beneath you deepens slightly, darkening into a richer shade, not ominous, just full. Depth, you sense, often accompanies speed, offering stability rather than danger. You think again of the river's wisdom. It has learned that forcing creates turbulence, but adjusting creates flow. Time, like water, prefers cooperation over control. You feel grateful for this preference. The banks begin to curve gently ahead, the path turning in a way that feels natural and inviting. You do not know what waits around the bend, and you do not need to. Curiosity feels softer when it is not sharpened by urgency. You allow your awareness to drift forward, noticing how the current feels slightly stronger now, smoother, more confident. Still calm. Still kind. Just carrying you a little more deeply into motion. As you breathe out slowly, you sense the river preparing to reveal another layer, something about light itself, about how speed and brightness weave together. The current deepens. The bend approaches. And without effort, without hurry, you drift onward, letting the river carry you gently toward what comes next. You drift forward smoothly now, already familiar with the river's gentle speed. Nothing presses against you. Nothing pulls too hard. Your breath stays slow, even, almost lazy in the best way. In. Out. The current supports you without comment, and you allow yourself to rest inside that trust. Ahead, something catches your attention. Not sharply. Not urgently. Just a soft noticing. Light moves across the river's surface, skimming it like a quiet thought that refuses to sit still. It stretches into long, glowing threads, sliding over ripples without ever sinking in. You feel calmer just watching it. The light never pauses. It does not gather itself. It does not wait for permission. Yet it never feels rushed. It simply moves, endlessly, faithfully, like a messenger who knows exactly where it belongs. You follow its path with your eyes, then stop following altogether, letting it pass without effort. You breathe in gently through your nose. The light seems to brighten, or perhaps your awareness does. You breathe out. The glow softens, spreading wider across the water, as if exhaling with you. Everything feels synchronized, though no one arranged it that way. This is where the river offers another quiet lesson. Light moves differently than you do. It always has. It carries information, warmth, and sight, gliding through space without slowing, without choosing a shorter route. It simply goes, steady and unwavering, like a promise it intends to keep. The science arrives softly beside you, respectful of the calm. Light always moves at the same pace. Not because it insists, but because the universe agrees. Time itself adjusts to accommodate this agreement, bending gently so light never has to change its stride. You do not feel surprised by this. It feels like something you have always known. You notice how the river responds when light touches it. Reflections stretch longer when you move faster. They thin and elongate, never breaking, just adapting. Time does the same thing. When motion increases, time loosens, giving light the consistency it needs. Nothing competes. Everything cooperates. You let your attention float, unanchored. Your body feels warm, supported by the steady hum beneath everything. A distant vibration, like the memory of sound, surrounds you. It does not distract. It reassures. The universe, it seems, is quietly working, even while you rest. You think about chasing light for a moment, and immediately feel amused. Light cannot be chased. It arrives when it arrives, leaves when it leaves, and does not check to see if anyone is keeping up. You imagine trying to explain hurry to it. You decide it would politely ignore you. You smile softly, the expression barely forming. Here, you do not need to pursue understanding. It drifts to you, the way light drifts across water, effortless and complete. Time bends because it must, because keeping light steady requires flexibility elsewhere. This bending is not dramatic. It is tender. You breathe in again. In. The air feels luminous somehow, as if light has dissolved into it. You breathe out. Out. Your thoughts stretch, lengthening rather than multiplying. You feel spacious, like a quiet room with windows open. The river curves gently beneath you, and light follows every contour without hesitation. It never overshoots. It never lags. It traces the river's shape perfectly, revealing the bend long before you reach it. You realize light is not leading you. It is simply showing what already exists. This comforts you. You do not need to chase insight. It meets you where you are, exactly as light meets the river's surface, adapting without effort. Time does not resist this meeting. It reshapes itself around it, patient and accommodating. You feel a sense of permission settle into your chest. Permission to move at your own pace. Permission to trust that time will adjust accordingly. The river has room for every speed. Light proves this quietly, again and again. Your body remains relaxed, floating with practiced ease. Muscles stay soft. Your neck feels supported. Your jaw loosens slightly, as if releasing an old conversation. You notice how little effort it takes to exist when nothing is being measured. The science hums softly now, like a lullaby with no lyrics. Because light always moves the same way, time becomes flexible. It stretches for those who move quickly, thickens for those near great stillness, and flows gently for those drifting calmly. The river adjusts its depth and width without complaint. You think again of clocks, briefly, and then let the thought dissolve. Clocks would have trouble here. Light refuses to slow down for them, and time refuses to stay rigid. You feel a quiet sympathy for ticking things in a flowing universe. The glow across the water deepens slightly as the bend approaches. Not brighter, just fuller. Like evening settling in with intention. You sense that light is about to reveal something new, something about travelers and return journeys, about how motion leaves its mark without causing harm. You inhale slowly, feeling the breath fill your ribs. In. You exhale even more slowly, letting the air slip out without resistance. Out. The river bends more clearly now, and light traces the curve ahead, calm and unbothered. You do not need to follow light. It meets you exactly where you are. Time understands this, and so the river carries you forward without urgency, gliding gently toward the next stretch, where another story waits, already unfolding. You drift beneath the bend the light has traced for you, and the river opens into a wider, calmer stretch. The motion feels confident now, settled into itself. Your breathing stays slow and even. In. Out. Each breath arrives like a soft confirmation that nothing needs to be fixed. You begin to imagine a traveler. Not dramatic. Not heroic. Just someone moving along the same river, carried a little faster than most. Perhaps it is you. Perhaps it is not. The river does not insist on clarity. This traveler moves smoothly, almost effortlessly, gliding through the current while the water adjusts around them. Moments stretch gently along their path, like reflections lengthening across the surface. Nothing snaps. Nothing tears. Time simply flows differently around the journey, accommodating speed the way water accommodates a boat. You notice how natural this feels. There is no sense of trickery here. No contradiction hiding beneath the surface. The traveler does not steal time from anyone else. They do not cheat the river. They move, and the river responds, which feels like the most reasonable arrangement imaginable. You breathe in slowly, letting the image settle. In. You breathe out. Out. Your chest feels warm, reassured by the ease of it all. Change, you realize, does not require drama. The traveler eventually returns. Not with trumpets. Not with announcements. Just arriving quietly, stepping back onto familiar ground near the riverbank. Others notice something subtle. The traveler seems younger than expected. Not startlingly so. Just gently, unmistakably different. You sit with this idea, allowing it to soften. The traveler did not reverse time. They did not escape it. They simply flowed along a different path through the same river. Time stretched along the journey, offering more space between moments, and so fewer changes accumulated along the way. The science rests here calmly, like a hand on your shoulder. Different paths through motion create different experiences of time. The river carries everyone, but not everyone moves through it the same way. Speed reshapes the flow, and the flow reshapes experience. You notice how this explanation does not feel sharp or cold. It feels intuitive. Like realizing why a long walk feels different than sitting still, or why travel days feel strangely compressed. Time has always been flexible. You are simply noticing it more clearly now. You imagine the traveler smiling politely when questions arise. They do not feel special. They do not feel out of place. They simply feel rested in a way that surprises others. The river has smoothed some edges for them, that is all. You smile too, a small, private smile. You think about how often change is framed as loss. Here, change feels more like variation, like the same melody played at a slightly different tempo. Nothing essential disappears. It only sounds a little different. Your breath remains slow. In. Out. The river's sound continues beneath everything, steady and unopinionated. You feel supported by its consistency. The traveler returns changed, yet the river remains exactly itself. You consider how comforting that is. The universe allows for difference without requiring chaos. It makes room. It adjusts. It does not panic when something moves quickly or slowly. It simply responds. A gentle humor drifts through your thoughts. You imagine time glancing at the traveler, shrugging, and saying nothing at all. Time is not offended. Time is not surprised. Time has seen every possible route. You feel warmth spread through your hands and shoulders as this understanding settles. There is no punishment for moving differently. There is no reward either. There is only experience, shaped by the path taken. The traveler steps away from the riverbank, blending back into ordinary motion. Daily rhythms resume. Shared movement returns. Time begins to feel steady again, not because it has changed, but because motion has aligned. You notice how gently this alignment happens. No switch flips. No line is crossed. The river simply carries everyone together once more, smoothing out the differences until they feel like memory. You breathe in, feeling the breath rise without effort. In. You breathe out, releasing it slowly. Out. Your body feels at ease with this idea of return. Change does not isolate. It integrates. The traveler's journey lingers in your awareness like a soft echo. It reminds you that aging is not a strict rule enforced by ticking hands. It is a relationship with motion, with speed, with how you move through the river's current. You sense that nothing here argues with common sense. Of course time would respond to movement. Of course a longer path through space would alter the pace through moments. The river has always been responsive. You are simply learning its language. You feel reassured by how gentle this truth is. There are no traps hidden in it. No sudden reversals. The traveler returns changed, but not estranged. The river welcomes them back without comment. You imagine yourself standing beneath a quiet bridge now, the kind that arches gracefully over the water. The underside is cool and shaded. Footsteps echo softly above, muted and distant. You drift beneath it with a long, easy exhale. In. Out. The bridge passes overhead, marking a transition without demanding attention. You like that? Transitions feel kinder when they are allowed to be subtle. As you emerge from the shade, the river seems to deepen slightly. Not darker, just richer. More weight beneath the surface, more patience in its flow. You sense that something heavier waits ahead, something calm and immense, shaping the river in another way. You let this awareness arrive without curiosity sharpening into effort. There is time for understanding later. For now, it is enough to feel carried. The traveler's story fades gently into the water, becoming part of the river's long memory. Change, you realize, is never isolated. It blends back into the whole, smoothing into continuity. You take one more slow breath, feeling it ground you. In. Out. The current beneath you grows quieter and deeper, preparing to slow near something vast and steady. Without urgency, without resistance, you drift onward, passing fully beneath the bridge, letting the river guide you gently toward the next place where time thickens and gravity waits, calm and patient. You feel the change before you see it. The river beneath you grows quieter, heavier in a comforting way, like a blanket settling after being lifted. Your movement does not stop, but it softens. Your breathing responds naturally. In. Out. Each breath feels fuller now, as if the air itself has decided to stay a little longer. The current slows without resistance. Not abruptly. Not dramatically. It simply deepens, widening into a darker, richer flow that carries weight with patience. You sense something nearby, something immense and calm, shaping the river without touching it directly. The air grows still. Not silent. Still. A gentle warmth surrounds you, subtle and steady, like being close to a sleeping presence that radiates reassurance. The distant hum you have grown accustomed to lowers in pitch, becoming a soft vibration you feel more than hear. You breathe again, slower. In. Out. Your body responds with ease, as if it recognizes this place instinctively. Your muscles loosen. Your thoughts stretch out, unhurried, like long shadows near evening. This is where gravity waits. Not as force. Not as threat. As presence. The science arrives quietly, careful not to disturb the calm. Gravity shapes time the way riverbanks shape water. Near something massive, time slows, lingering gently, as though invited to rest. Moments lengthen here, not because they are trapped, but because they are held. You feel this holding now. Each sensation seems to stay with you a little longer. The warmth on your skin. The steady rhythm of your breath. The awareness of your own weight, supported completely by the river's depth. You realize that slowing, here, is not danger. It is safety. Time does not struggle against gravity. It settles into it, the way water settles into a deep pool, becoming calmer as it goes. You imagine the river above this place, rushing more freely, carrying lighter currents. And here, below, the water thickens, darkens slightly, gaining a quiet dignity. Nothing is lost between these regions. They are connected by flow, by gentle adjustment. You smile softly at the idea that time itself knows how to rest. It does not always need to hurry forward. Sometimes it gathers around stillness, choosing depth over speed. You find this deeply reassuring. Your breathing continues its slow rhythm. In, out. Each exhale feels longer than the one before, not forced, simply allowed. Your heartbeat seems to echo faintly in the surrounding space, steady and unremarkable, exactly as it should be. You feel no urge to leave this place. There is nothing ominous about the wait here. Gravity does not pull harshly. It invites closeness. It offers a kind of embrace that requires no effort to accept. The river responds beautifully. Its surface grows smoother, reflections becoming clearer, more deliberate. Light above stretches gently, lingering longer on each ripple. Time thickens not to delay you, but to cushion you. You think about how often heaviness is framed as something to escape. Here, heaviness feels like support. Like being held securely while everything else slows down enough to notice. The science hums softly beneath the imagery. Near great mass, time moves more slowly. Not as a punishment. Not as an anomaly. As a natural response. The river simply adjusts its pace, honoring the presence it moves around. You feel gratitude for this adaptability. The universe does not insist on sameness. It allows variation, responding to conditions with care rather than rigidity. Time bends because it must, and in doing so, it creates gentler experiences. Your awareness drifts inward slightly. Thoughts arrive and dissolve without clinging. You feel warm, protected, suspended within the river's deeper current. The idea of falling does not arise. Here, falling and resting feel remarkably similar. You imagine gravity as a quiet listener, vast and unhurried, shaping paths without instruction. It does not rush the river. It does not demand attention. It simply exists, and time responds by slowing, by staying. A small, gentle humor surfaces. You imagine time stretching out on a comfortable chair near gravity, sighing contentedly. You decide time deserves the break. Your breath remains slow. In. Out. The hum around you deepens slightly, like a distant chord held just long enough to feel complete. Nothing presses forward. Nothing urges you on. You realize how rarely slowness is treated as kindness. Here, slowness is generous. It gives moments room to settle, to be experienced fully without pressure. The river continues to carry you, even here. Movement does not stop because time slows. It becomes smoother, more deliberate, more intentional. You are still traveling, just differently. You feel safe in this knowledge. Gravity does not trap time. It cradles it. Moments rest longer in your awareness, like warm stones held in your hands. You breathe in again, feeling the air fill you completely. In. You breathe out slowly, releasing it without hurry. Out. Your body feels heavy in the most comforting way, grounded and supported by the deep flow. You sense that this region will not last forever. The river will eventually lighten, speed returning gently as gravity's influence fades. There is no loss in this transition, only change, handled with care. For now, you remain in the depth. You allow yourself to be held. Time lingers around you, soft and patient, as if reluctant to leave such stillness. As you float onward, you notice the river beginning, very gradually, to smooth again, preparing to carry you back toward lighter flow. The weight eases without disappearing entirely. You take one last slow breath here. In. Out. And as the current subtly shifts, you drift onward, calm and reassured, ready to explore how this gentle slowing shapes the way you age, unfold, and continue along the river of time. You drift onward as the river lightens again, easing out of its deeper weight with quiet grace. Nothing snaps back. Nothing jolts. The current simply becomes smoother, more buoyant, as if it has finished holding something precious and now carries it forward gently. Your breathing remains slow and steady. In. Out. Each breath feels familiar, like a rhythm your body remembers without effort. You feel warm, settled, supported by the flow beneath you. Thoughts of aging rise softly, not sharp or demanding. They arrive like reflections on the water, visible but calm. You notice how different this feels from the way aging is usually discussed, framed as something slipping away. Here, aging feels more like a quiet unfolding, a process of becoming rather than losing. You look at the riverbed beneath the surface. Smooth stones rest there, shaped over long stretches of time. None of them appear damaged by the water. They are polished, rounded, patterned by touch rather than force. You recognize yourself in them. Time flows through you the same way. It does not scrape you down to nothing. It shapes you gradually, leaving texture, memory, softness. You find comfort in this image. It feels honest. The science settles in gently, like a familiar voice. Aging follows the pace of your journey through time. It is not a universal countdown ticking away at the same rate for everyone. It responds to motion, to environment, to how the river carries you. You feel reassured by the lack of urgency in this idea. Nothing is racing ahead without you. Nothing is pushing you from behind. You are moving exactly as you were meant to move, within the flow that fits your path. You breathe in, noticing the warmth in your chest. In. You breathe out, letting your shoulders soften further. Out. The river's sound remains steady, a low, comforting murmur beneath everything. You think about how often age is treated like a number etched into stone. Here, age feels more like a story written in water. Flexible. Responsive. Always connected to the path taken. You imagine time passing through you, not over you. It does not stand outside, pointing or judging. It moves with you, sharing the journey, adjusting its pace as needed. This partnership feels kinder than you expected. Your body feels present and real in this moment. The warmth of your hands. The steady beat in your chest. The simple fact of being here, drifting. None of this feels temporary in a frightening way. It feels ongoing. A gentle humor flickers through your thoughts. You imagine time carefully unfolding you like a well-loved map, smoothing creases rather than adding them. You decide you like that image very much. You notice how the river continues to shape its banks as it flows, creating curves and bends without erasing what came before. Past sections remain part of the whole, informing the present shape. Aging works the same way. Nothing is discarded. Everything contributes. You feel a sense of permission settle in. Permission to change without apologizing. Permission to carry marks of experience without seeing them as damage. The river does not apologize for its bends. Neither should you. You breathe again, slow and deep. In. Out. Each breath feels like an agreement between you and the moment. No rush. No resistance. The science hums quietly beneath your awareness. Time dilation means that aging is not fixed in stone. It stretches and compresses based on how you move through the world. Even when you are not traveling quickly, the principle remains gentle and responsive. You find comfort in knowing that aging is not something happening to you from the outside. It is something happening with you, shaped by the same river that carries your thoughts and breath. You are not being pushed toward an ending. You are being carried through an unfolding. You imagine leaves drifting along the water's surface, each one moving at its own pace, some lingering longer in calm eddies, others gliding ahead. None of them are wrong. None of them are late. The river holds them all. Your awareness grows softer, less focused on edges. Time feels wide again, generous. You sense that aging, in this view, is simply time leaving patterns behind, like ripples fading into memory. You feel grateful for the gentleness of this understanding. It does not demand optimism. It does not deny change. It simply reframes it as something natural and responsive. Your body remains relaxed, floating easily. Muscles stay loose. Your face softens, expression unguarded. You feel safe within the flow, exactly as you are. You take another slow breath. In. Out. The river continues to smooth beneath you, carrying you forward without commentary. You sense other presences nearby now, not distinct yet, just the feeling of shared movement returning. Other travelers. Other currents aligning. Time beginning to feel shared again. This awareness does not pull you away from yourself. It expands you. You realize aging is not a solitary process. It happens within a shared river, shaped by collective motion. The water brightens slightly ahead, the flow evening out, preparing to carry many together. You feel ready for this next stretch. With one more unhurried breath, you allow the river to guide you onward, gently, toward the place where shared motion steadies time, and other travelers drift quietly beside you. You become aware of others gradually, not as interruptions, but as a widening of the scene. The river does not crowd. It opens. Your breathing stays slow and unforced. In. Out. The current feels smoother now, more even, as if many gentle movements have agreed to share a rhythm. You sense nearby presences drifting alongside you. Not close enough to touch. Not distant enough to feel separate. Just there, moving with you, carried by the same water, shaped by the same quiet rules. The river feels broader when it holds many travelers. The sound changes first. The murmur of water blends with soft, indistinct echoes, like voices heard through walls, comforting rather than distracting. Nothing is said clearly. Nothing needs to be. The shared motion says enough. You breathe in, and the breath feels answered somehow. not mirrored exactly, just supported. You breathe out, and the exhale slips easily into the space around you, as if it belongs there. The sense of isolation loosens without effort. Time feels steadier here. Not rigid, just consistent. Moments arrive with a familiar weight, neither stretched nor compressed. You recognize this feeling. It is how time feels in company, when movement aligns and the river carries many at once. The science settles gently into this awareness. Time feels stable when motion is shared. When you drift together, the river's surface smooths, and change becomes less noticeable. Nothing has stopped moving. Everything has simply agreed on a pace. You find comfort in this agreement. It is not enforced. No one commands it. It emerges naturally, like people falling into step without trying. The river prefers cooperation to precision. You imagine the travelers beside you, each with their own histories, their own bends and the river behind them. Those differences do not vanish here. They simply rest. Shared movement does not erase individuality. It provides a common current. You feel warmth spread through your chest at this thought. Connection, you realize, does not require sameness. It requires alignment. The river holds this distinction beautifully. Your body feels calm, settled into the shared flow. Muscles remain soft. Your heartbeat continues its steady rhythm, no longer standing out, just part of the larger hum. You feel held not by hands, but by participation. A gentle humor drifts through your awareness. You imagine time sighing contentedly when everyone drifts together, grateful for the break from constant adjustment. You decide time deserves moments of ease too. You notice how the river's surface looks smoother now, reflections clearer, less stretched. Light rests on the water instead of racing across it. Moments feel evenly spaced, like steps taken together without counting. You breathe in slowly. In. The air feels shared, full but unclaimed. You breathe out. Out. The exhale dissolves into the same space others breathe into, and the thought brings a quiet sense of belonging. Time, here, does not feel like something happening to you. It feels like something happening with you. The river carries many stories at once, weaving them together without tangling. You sense how comforting this steadiness is. It does not demand attention. It allows rest. When motion aligns, awareness softens, and the need to monitor time fades naturally. You think briefly of clocks again, and this time you smile more openly. Clocks try to create shared time with rules and divisions. The river does it with flow. You prefer the river's method. The travelers beside you remain indistinct, yet present. You do not need names or faces. Their movement is enough. Shared drifting creates a quiet trust, like sitting together in a dim room without speaking. Your breath continues its gentle rhythm. In. Out. Each breath feels slightly deeper now, supported by the steady pace of the current. Nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels delayed. The science hums softly beneath everything. Shared motion creates the feeling of stillness. Time feels consistent because differences in pace are minimal, smoothed by alignment. The river does not stop adapting. It simply adapts less noticeably. You feel reassured by this understanding. When time feels calm, it is not because nothing is happening. It is because many things are happening together. The river widens slightly, making space for all who drift within it. There is room. There is always room. You sense no competition for current, no need to hurry ahead. You notice how your thoughts grow quieter in this shared flow. Not empty, just spacious. Awareness becomes less focused on edges and more on presence. A soft pause settles in, like a collective breath held for just a moment. Then released. In. Out. The release carries a feeling of trust. You realize that you are not alone in time. You never were. Time is experienced together far more often than apart. The river makes this obvious without explanation. The light ahead shifts subtly, becoming more open, more diffuse. The river seems to widen further, preparing for a stretch where measurement matters less, where counting dissolves entirely. You feel ready for this. The steadiness of shared motion has softened something inside you. The need to track, to compare, to measure begins to loosen. As you take one more calm breath, you feel the river pause, not stopping, just easing before carrying you onward, gently, toward a place where the urge to measure fades, and time becomes something you simply feel, rather than count. You notice the shift gently, like a habit loosening its grip without being asked. The river widens, not dramatically, just enough that its edges soften and begin to feel optional. Your breathing stays slow and unbothered. In. Out. The air feels open now, as if there is more of it than before. You realize you are no longer looking for markers. No milestones. No silent checkpoints asking you to confirm where you are. The river does not provide them, and somehow you do not miss them. It carries you with the same care it always has. Time feels different here. Not slower. Not faster. Less interested in being counted. Moments arrive and leave without announcing themselves, like birds passing through open sky. You notice them only when you choose to look. The science settles in quietly, like a truth that has been waiting its turn. Time is experienced, not owned. It is not a collection you can hold or lose. It is a process you participate in, whether you measure it or not. You feel a small relief at this idea. Measuring always required effort. Attention. A kind of vigilance that pretended to be responsibility. Here, responsibility dissolves into presence. You breathe in, letting the air fill your chest without instruction. In. You breathe out, and the exhale drifts away without being tracked. Out. No one notes how long it took. Nothing demands consistency. The river's sound becomes softer, more diffuse, like a quiet room with windows open. There is no single point to focus on. Your awareness spreads gently, resting everywhere at once. This feels natural, like something your mind has been wanting to do for a long time. You think briefly of clocks again, but the thought fades quickly. Here, clocks would have nothing to do. They would tick politely in the corner, slowly realizing no one is listening. You imagine one eventually taking a nap. You approve. You notice how sensations feel fuller when they are not framed by measurement. Warmth on your skin lingers without needing duration. The hum beneath the river feels complete without being timed. Your own heartbeat exists without commentary. Time, you realize, does not disappear when you stop counting it. It becomes more intimate, more like weather than arithmetic. Something you feel rather than track. The river reflects this perfectly. It does not divide itself into equal segments. It flows in response to land, to depth, to presence. Its care is continuous, not discrete. You feel reassured by the absence of edges. Nothing is ending here. Nothing is beginning sharply either. Experience simply continues, smooth and uninterrupted. You breathe again, slower still. In. Out. Your body seems to thank you for the simplicity. Muscles soften further. Your face relaxes without instruction. A gentle humor drifts through your thoughts. You imagine time shrugging when asked for exactness, offering instead a wide gesture toward the river. You decide this is a reasonable response. The science hums quietly beneath the imagery. When you stop measuring, you stop forcing time into shapes it does not prefer. You allow it to flow as it naturally does, responsive and adaptive. Nothing important is lost in this release. You feel a quiet confidence growing. Trust replaces tracking. Sensation replaces calculation. The river has been carrying you successfully long before you learn to count. You notice how thoughts slow, not because they are restrained, but because there is no rush to complete them. Ideas can arrive halfway and drift away unfinished. This feels allowed here. You sense that time, without measurement, feels wider, more forgiving. There is room for pauses, for wandering attention, for rest that does not justify itself. The river welcomes all of it. You breathe in, and the breath feels especially deep. In. You breathe out, and the exhale seems to dissolve into the surrounding space. Out. The boundary between inside and outside feels less distinct. You think about how often measurement creates anxiety by implying scarcity. Here, scarcity has no language. Time does not threaten to run out when it is not being counted. It simply continues. You feel a gentle gratitude for this understanding. Not the kind that demands expression. The quiet kind that settles into the body and stays there. The river grows luminous now, not brighter, just clearer, as if light has decided to spread evenly rather than concentrate. The current remains steady, confident in its direction without needing markers to prove it. You sense that letting go of measurement does not make you careless. It makes you attentive in a different way. You notice texture instead of quantity, presence instead of progress. Your breathing remains slow and easy. In. Out. Each breath feels complete on its own, not part of a sequence to be evaluated. Time, you realize, has always been this way beneath the surface. Counting was something added later, a convenience mistaken for truth. The river has been flowing regardless. You feel ready to rest inside this understanding. There is no fear here. No sense of something slipping past unseen. Everything that matters arrives fully, whether you count it or not. The science remains gentle, almost invisible now. Time is not owned, stored, or spent. It is experienced, moment by moment, shaped by motion, presence, and attention. You are doing this perfectly without effort. The river widens a little more, becoming calm and luminous, like a thought nearing sleep. There is space here to stop trying. Space to float. You take one last slow breath in this open stretch. In. Out. And as the river continues, unmeasured in kind, it begins to carry you toward a place where even understanding can rest, where floating becomes enough, and where you can simply be held within the current. The river slows again, but not in a way that commands attention. It is simply softer, wider, inviting pause. Your body responds naturally, surrendering a little more with each breath. In. Out. The air feels warm against your skin, carrying a quiet hum beneath the surface, steady and unremarkable. You feel the gentle support of the current beneath you. It is not pushing. It is not pulling. It simply holds. Your arms rest lightly against the water, your hands barely disturbing its surface. Every ripple seems to accommodate your presence. Thoughts drift past, like leaves moving with the flow. You do not chase them. You do not push them away. They arrive, linger for a moment, and continue downriver. You are allowed this simplicity. The science whispers quietly now, almost like a lullaby. Understanding does not require effort. It does not arrive only after struggle or calculation. It settles on you naturally, like sediment sinking to the riverbed beneath your weightless drift. The knowledge you carry is already complete, waiting patiently to be noticed. You breathe in slowly, letting the air fill your chest and expand your back. In. Out. The exhale carries with it a small sigh, barely audible, releasing the need to grasp or hold. Your shoulders drop. Your jaw softens. Your whole body becomes a vessel floating in the current, supported, weightless. You notice the water beneath you, moving quietly, with no hurry. Each ripple, each shimmer of light, communicates the rhythm of the river without words. It is a rhythm you can feel rather than name. It is gentle and constant, like a lullaby played by the universe itself. The river has carried you through bends, through speed and stillness, through the thickening influence of gravity. It has adjusted, adapted, and welcomed your journey. Now it carries you without needing you to measure, to calculate, or to anticipate. You feel this presence like warmth on your skin. A soft smile drifts across your face. Even humor can appear here, subtle and fleeting. You imagine the river nudging along a small leaf, letting it twirl without concern. You chuckle quietly at the ease of it. Time itself seems amused, patient, unobtrusive. You sink deeper into awareness, floating without intention. There is no timeline to follow, no sequence to perfect. Only movement and presence. Only the quiet intimacy of the river carrying you. Your body feels lighter, yet grounded in a gentle paradox. Muscles remain relaxed. Your spine aligns naturally with the flow beneath you. Your heart beats evenly, not racing, not delayed, just existing within this rhythm. You are present entirely in the moment. Breathing continues with calm regularity. In. Out. You feel each inhale arrive as if it had a soft pulse of its own. Each exhale drifts into the surrounding space, dissolving into quiet harmony. The river carries your breath, your thoughts, your sense of self, with effortless grace. The science is here still, yet it hums without disturbance. Time dilation, aging, motion, gravity, all of these concepts float softly, like faint patterns beneath the surface. They do not demand focus. They simply exist, revealed gently to anyone willing to notice without force. You feel your awareness widen, encompassing more of the river at once. Reflections stretch longer, light dances slowly across the water's surface, and the hum of the current rises in gentle waves. Everything feels connected. Everything moves together in a soft, unbroken rhythm. The river carries knowledge like sediment. It settles around you without effort. Understanding does not arrive as a bolt of insight. It is quiet, unassuming, and entirely sufficient. You do not need to chase it. You do not need to hold it tightly.
Each breath feels longer, fuller, more complete.
In, out.
The current beneath you supports without interference, carries without expectation. You notice how small details now become magnified in their calmness. A ripple on the water reflects moonlight like silver silk. A soft breeze brushes your cheek. A distant bird calls faintly, then is gone. Everything is noticed, yet nothing demands reaction. Time flows around you naturally, unhurried. The river bends gently, carrying you forward, yet forward feels infinite, endless, unpressured. There is no need to grasp, no need to anticipate.
You can simply drift.
You feel a profound reassurance settle into your awareness. The river continues, whether or not you watch it. Time continues, whether or not you measure it. The past is remembered softly. The future will arrive as it does. You exist fully within the flow of the present. Your body feels almost weightless, as if merging with the river itself. Muscles release completely. The warmth of your breath spreads through your chest and belly. Your heart beats softly, steadily, a quiet drum in the background. You are carried effortlessly, held gently, supported completely. A gentle, fleeting smile appears at the corners of your lips. You think of all the bends, the bridges, the deep pools, the light dancing on the water. The river has carried all of it, and all of it has carried you. Everything has been welcomed without judgment, without rush, without expectation. You inhale slowly, one last long, deep breath.
In.
You exhale slowly, releasing any residual tension, any lingering thought.
Out.
Your awareness softens to the edges of perception, touching the hum of the river, the cool night air, the faint glow of distant light. The river bends gently again, carrying you toward a quiet horizon. The current does not hurry. It does not demand. It simply flows, endlessly, reliably, peacefully. You feel safe. You feel whole. You feel ready. Breathe in, breathe out, and let the river carry you into sleep, into rest, into the gentle unfolding of dreams, unmeasured and infinite, along the quiet, endless river of time.